As far back as I can remember, I've always felt like I was chasing something. There's this feeling like something is missing, and I've got to get this or that thing into my life if I want to fill the gap. But no matter what I bring into my life, it never really seems to do the trick. You definitely know what I'm talking about. This isn't anything new. It's a problem people have been facing for as long as there have been people. Though I do think it is often intensified in today's ultra fast-paced world. Sometimes when people feel like something is missing, they look to the past. They dwell on times in their lives when things felt more stable or more complete, and they fixate on those memories, wanting nothing more than to go back to the way things were. Other people find themselves focusing on the future. If I could just achieve this goal or meet this person or have this amount of money to buy this thing, then I would feel more complete and I could relax. It's a way of escaping from the present, but it's not just that. It's also a way of rejecting reality and living in the absence of gratitude. Why aren't things good enough as they are right now? You may be able to quickly come up with a multitude of answers to this question, but that's the problem. There's a really great scene in the film Fight Club when Tyler Durden is giving a speech to some new inductees to the club. He says, "We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. We're slowly learning that fact, and we're very pissed off." I believe that this observation is at the heart of a great deal of modern misery. This is the takeaway from contemporary culture's obsession with entertainment and celebrity. Fame, money, glory. Without these things, you are worthless, or so capitalist pop culture and advertising would have you believe. Social media has only amplified this message times 1,000,000. In this world of social media influencers and YouTube stars, we want to believe now more than ever that we can and will be famous. Somewhere along the line, we decided that being ordinary was out of the question. To seek fulfillment in the plain, simple, day-to-day reality of life became passé. We convinced ourselves that living in one place your whole life was foolish and unsophisticated. We decided that we needed more of everything. More gadgets, more cars, more vacations, more entertainment, more distraction. And in doing so, we lost our ability to appreciate what we have. We became preoccupied with the idea that nothing we have is good enough, that we aren't good enough, that the only way to live life to its fullest is to have anything and everything we could possibly want precisely in the moment we ask for it. What an unfathomably self-absorbed way of existing. We like to talk about privilege, and certainly there are some of us who have lived more privileged existences than others. But at least here in the Western world, we are all guilty of the apathetic expectation of entitlement. The world owes us something, or so we think. There is an old episode of This American Life which features an interview with Kevin Kelly, editor of Wired magazine. In the interview, Kelly tells the story of a very pivotal time in his life. He was working as a freelance photographer and traveling the world. He had recently become interested in religious rituals and rites as he was struggling with understanding his own religious beliefs. His work took him to Jerusalem during the time of Easter and Passover, and the city was full of tourists. He decided that he would photograph some of the religious ceremonies taking place. One evening, he was out too late and got locked out of his hostel. He found himself wandering this ancient city in search of some place to rest. After some time, he came upon a church. This was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which rests on the spot where the crucifixion of Jesus is said to have taken place. That night he lay down on a slab of marble marking the exact location of the crucifixion and slept. When he woke in the morning, there were people accumulating and heading out to another area on the church grounds. Kelly decided to follow them and found himself sitting in front of the open tombs from which Jesus is said to have risen. As he sat there in the morning sun, looking out on the tombs, he realized that he now believed fully that Jesus had in fact risen from these tombs. Having come to this realization, he began to question what he should do with this newfound understanding. He returned to his hostel, lay on his bed, and contemplated what this revelation meant to him. As he lay there, it came to him that he should live his life as if he were going to die in 6 months. Having come upon this realization, he asked himself what he would do if he only had 6 months to live. The conclusion he came to was unexpected. To go back to my parents, to help them take out trash and trim hedges, and help them move furniture around, and to be with them. And I was really shocked by that, because I thought that with 6 months to live, I would go climb Mount Everest, or I would go scuba diving to the depths of the ocean, or I would get in a speedboat and see how fast it could go. But instead, I wanted to go back home and be with my family for that time. And so he went home and did exactly those ordinary things he describes. After some time at home, he realized that if he was going to die, he would want to see his brothers and sisters for the last time. So he decided to ride his bike across country to visit them. Before he left, he wrote up a will and gave away a large sum of money in cashier's checks, which he sent anonymously to friends and family. He would return from this cycling trip the day of Halloween, which would also mark the end of the 6-month period and the final day he had to live. When he reached home, he had a very pleasant but ordinary dinner with his parents. He gave out Halloween candy to the children who came to the door of his parents' house. And finally, he went to bed very exhausted from his long journey and fell asleep. He says that he fully believed that he would not wake up the next morning. But when the next morning came, he did wake up. And when he did, he realized that he had his entire life back. This day was yet another ordinary day, but he was overcome with appreciation for his restored future. I was reborn into ordinariness, but what more could one ask for? Whether you're a religious person or not, and I certainly am not, there is a meaningful lesson to be learned from this story. Maybe we should all ask ourselves this question. What would I do if I only had 6 months to live? Be careful though, because caught up as we are in our egos and who we think we are and want to be, it can be very easy to spout off an answer that lacks honest consideration. Personally, I too would want nothing more than to be with my loved ones and those closest to me. Though I wonder if I would have been willing to admit this to myself before hearing this story. The conditioned response is to list off the amazing bucket list items we've been told we must complete if we want to approach death without regret. But really think about this for a moment. Imagine yourself on your deathbed. Really picture it. See yourself there, sick, tired, alone, knowing you're about to die. What really brings regret? Is it that missed opportunity to climb some mountain or achieve some glorified status? Or is it the opportunities we miss to connect with those we love each and every day? Recently, my grandmother died. She was 96 years old, and we had anticipated her death for some time. I was never really close with her. She was a hard and cruel woman. Yet after her death, I still found myself thinking I wished I had asked her more questions toward the end about her thoughts on death and what it was like to know she was living out her final days. We did have one brief conversation about death shortly after her sister, who was 102, passed just a few months earlier. She told me that the last time she spoke with her sister on the phone, she had asked her if she was ready to die, but her sister refused to say anything about it. This upset my grandmother. Grandma said that she was ready to die, that she had come to peace with it, but she still wanted the comfort of knowing that her sister felt the same way. This is probably the most meaningful conversation I ever had with this woman, a woman I knew my entire life. Do I regret not knowing her better? Yes and no. No, because she was not a person with any great wisdom to impart. But also yes, because there are worlds hidden inside each and every one of us that can never be uncovered unless we are willing to take the time. My grandmother lived a very ordinary life. What made her life feel regretful was not the ordinariness, but the way she carried herself through it. She was a resentful, angry, unkind person who blamed all her life's frustrations on her family, and in doing so, alienated everyone. Her death was not a graceful or dignified one. It was one tainted with the stench of bitterness and disappointment. And that's just the thing. When I think on her life, I don't think about what she did or did not achieve. She achieved a perfectly reasonable number of things in her long lifetime, including having been an excellent award-winning painter. What I think about in my reflections on her life is the content of her character and how she lived and loved. Because we all live ordinary lives. Even the biggest celebrity you can think of takes a shit each morning and brushes their teeth before bed at night. Ordinariness is what life is made of. Ordinary mornings with ordinary routines, ordinary doubts, ordinary fears, ordinary frustrations, and if you're lucky and you learn how to spot it, ordinary wonder.